Well, the thing with the elbow, the 12 to 6 elbow, is that is no more dangerous than me standing over you and slicing you with my elbow. The only motion you cannot do with your elbow is 12 to 6. But from your back, you can do 12 to 6 because it's not 12 to 6 anymore.
Right. Yeah, it's
So,
6 to 12. So
right. So the 12 to 6 elbow is ridiculous.
Now it's time for the Change for Brains podcast.
hey everybody, welcome back to the Change for Brains podcast. Podcast where two regular guys share their nickel and dime thoughts on a variety of different subjects, and at the end of the day, you just gotta ask yourself, does any of it really make sense? Episode number 10, we have made it to double digits, Chris. I don't know if you thought we'd stay with it this long, but we have. And today is a special episode. We have an interview with a MMA referee named Bobby Wombacher, and we're not going to waste much time because we're going to get into the interview. But first, I think we should catch up a little bit on sports. What are your thoughts on the whole thing with Nick Diaz and him choking that kid out in, I think it's New Orleans?
Well, I've seen a few things. I saw the video of Nate, and the video I saw didn't really look great. But I know his attorney kind of came out and said that they've got plenty of evidence that shows that it was self-defense.
Well, there was a bunch of people fighting around him too, I guess. But that was like the second or third fight Nate had got into that night. So
I saw the guy. I forget the guy's name. I guess they were saying that apparently he's a professional fighter. Also, I think maybe he only has a few fights, nothing big, but say he was a fighter. And what I kind of heard today claims that he was kind of following Nate around. That the video isn't that accurate. So I don't know.
The video that I seen of him choking that guy out, like there's one that jumps right in as he's choking him out, and then there's another one where from what I can tell, I don't know the whole story, but the kids or the guys like this.
That's the video that I saw today.
And Nate's got it up, and then you see a bunch of people like start fighting, and all of a sudden, as soon as the camera gets around him, Nate's already got him in a chokehold. And I think Nate would have gotten off a little bit easier if he would have just set the dude down, but he just like dropped him like dead weight. And the dude bounced his head off the concrete pretty hard.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Like I said, a lot of things I was hearing today claim again, because I think even Nate's attorney is saying that they've got lots of evidence that shows that it was self-defense. So
I think if anything, he'll probably have to pay some fines. I'd be more worried about that guy suing him than anything. But like you said, we'll see how it plays out. He also has that big fight with Jake Paul coming up, so
right.
I don't think that'll change anything with that, but we'll have to just wait and see how that plays out. The other thing I want to talk to you real quick is about Francis Ngannou. Seems like that guy cannot find a home that he's happy with. Do you ultimately think he ends up back in the UFC, or do you think he just rides it out till he gets that big boxing payday that he's wanting?
Initially I would have said that because Dana was pretty clear he's not going to have that opportunity again. So initially I would have probably said I don't see him back in UFC. But no, John Jones just came out and said that after Stipe, that basically he's the only other fight that he would want. So could possibly see John Jones' influence kind of maybe talking Dana into him coming back, at least for that one more fight.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because one championship offered him $20 million, but he wanted like, I don't know if it was stock or like part ownership or something. But I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a good fighter, but you can't ask for the world after being world champion a couple times.
Right.
So we'll see how that plays out too. But like I said, we're not going to waste much time. Let's get into this interview with Bobby. Here we go. Our special guest today is commonly known as the third man in the cage. If you're not sure what that is, he's an MMA ref, and he's been doing his thing now for an impressive 12 years, sharing the cage with some very talented fighters from promotions like the UFC, Bellator, LFA, RFA, and more. Hailing from Colorado, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bobby Womacker. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So I said you're from Colorado, but I think where are you actually from? Is it Castle Rock?
I was born and raised in Illinois, but right now I live in Castle Rock, Colorado. Yeah.
Really? Where were you born in Illinois?
Taylorville?
Is that close to Chicago or middle?
No, it's central. It's by about 30 minutes from Springfield and about 30 minutes from Decatur.
The reason why I asked is I'm actually from Illinois.
Okay.
Do you know where Evansville, Indiana is?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm about 30 minutes from there.
Okay. And what town?
It's a little town called Carmine. I mean,
Okay, I know it.
small. Yeah, it's
I've heard of it.
5,000 people.
Sure.
So yeah, the reason why I asked you about the whole Castle Rock is because I tried to do some, do my due diligence, and it said Castle Rock, but you're always talking about Denver. So, is that like kind of where you live now, or I mean, you're always traveling, so
Right. It's easier to say Denver, opposed to Castle Rock, just because people relate to Denver. Just like if you're from Schaumburg, Illinois, you say you're from Chicago. Castle Rock's about I don't know, 25 minutes south of Denver.
kind of like a suburb, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, I looked it up, and that's what I thought, and I wanted to make sure before I asked that, because I also seen that you went to ASU.
Yes.
And most people, when they hear ASU, they think of Phoenix, when it's actually Tempe, Arizona.
Right.
I lived in Mesa for 4 years.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, people, they don't think of Mesa or Tempe or Chandler, Gilbert, towns like that.
Yeah, people just relate it to the big city, and you'll see a lot of events that are done that I ref. They'll say like it's in New Orleans, but it's really not. It's just that's what people would relate it to. So
Yeah, because when I first went down to Phoenix, my cousins lived down there, and I just kind of wanted to get out of Illinois for a while, because I lived here basically my whole life. And I got there, and they actually lived in Mesa. I'm like, I thought we were going to Phoenix. They're like, this is Phoenix. Like, like the Cardinals don't even play in Phoenix. They play in Glendale, Arizona.
Right.
So, yeah, until you've lived in a big city and lived in, like, when we say we're from small, every time I say I'm from Illinois, same thing I asked you, first thing they're like, oh, from Chicago? I'm like, no, from the other 90% of the state. So, yeah. All right. Well, first, I also want to ask you, how have things been? Are you traveling this week?
I am. I'll be heading to Lincoln, Nebraska this weekend. So, yeah, it's never ends.
Yeah. Like I said, it seems like you're always on the go.
Always. That's a good thing, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Keeps you busy, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, I won't spend any more time on the small talk. I think we're going to get into some MMA topics, if that's all right with you.
Absolutely.
All right.
So, hey, Bobby, I guess I've got the first question here.
Okay.
So I kind of started following MMA probably around 2008. I guess really in like the BJ Penn, GSP, Anderson Silva, and those dominant days from them. The question is, can you recall, I guess, any fights that you were just amazed by early on that kind of led you into the career path as a ref?
Some of the early fights that I remember, obviously the Ken Shamrock, Hoist Gracie, just watching Hoist in the early days, because I was a smaller guy too, and the fact that a small guy could whip a big guy just blew my mind. Like that isn't physically possible where I'm from. So to be able to see that, but Matt Hughes and Carlos Newton, that one was one of the early ones that got me really hooked, I guess. I used to watch the VHS tapes from the early days. So I enjoyed watching the Shamrocks and the Severins and the Gracies and, all those guys. And now, ironically enough, now to meet those guys, which I've met, I think over half of them that was on UFC 1 and 2, and be able to talk to them about the sport now and how it's evolved and stuff it's awesome. So and I enjoy that.
Absolutely. The next thing I was kind of wondering, so I guess through the years I've seen some fights that I felt got stopped really early, and then I've seen the extreme of that, fights where fighters just took insane amounts of damage. My question kind of is, like, with fighters like maybe like Nick and Nate Diaz that always had like an amazing chin, could recover really quickly. How do you draw that line, I guess, of knowing when to stop a fight?
Well, first off, I guess every official has to be competent and they have to be fully trained. You see a lot of early stoppages or late stoppages, and it's generally due to competency issues. You get the high level refs, and there are some that still, make mistakes. We all make mistakes. But the more you're training, the more competent you are, the less likely that is to happen. However, whenever you're in there with a fighter, I talk to all the fighters that I'm going to be in the cage with or ring one-on-one prior to, and if I had a nickel every time the fighter says, I'm resilient, don't stop it, I'll come back, let me die in there, I'd be a millionaire. So a fighter has a different mindset, and that's what people don't understand. True fighters, they don't want to quit. They could be out cold and they still want to fight. Like, that's just the way it is. But you do your homework on your fighters that you're going to be in there with, especially on the bigger shows. And you kind of know what their tendencies are and things like that. Like, with Diaz, he's going to get cut. That every fight he's in, he's going to get cut. Like, that's just the way it is. So if you're going to be, I guess, jump to trying to stop it due to cut, you probably shouldn't be the ref for that fight, because he's going to get cut. I mean, the guy looks at him wrong and he gets cut. That's just the way it goes. So you got to kind of know who you're going to be in there with. However, a ref should be able to see the fighter's eyes, and that's how, I guess, a good referee will determine when to stop it, when not to stop it. If they get knocked out cold, obviously to stop it. But we're close. The cameras can't even get as close as we are to it. And if you've got to be able to see what the fighter's eyes tell you. That tells you when to stop it, when not to stop it. And you'll get criticized a lot of times for not stopping a fight because everybody thinks you should have. But you really shouldn't have, because the fighter was fine. He was taking some damage, but he was fine. And how I knew that is because I was 6 inches away from him. So it goes to, a lot of it is competency issues. But the good referees are looking at the eyes, and they know when to step in and when to step out. Believe me, you're either one punch early or one punch late. That's in everybody's eyes. So the most thankless job is the referee, because half the people are going to love you, half of them are going to hate you at the end of the night. And it's absolutely your fault that the fighter lost. That's it. If you can't accept it, then you probably shouldn't be doing it.
Right. The next thing I was going to ask, it really kind of plays off of the last question. So I can remember back, like I think it was Rich Franklin, Liddell, where Franklin actually had a broken arm in that fight and continued and actually ended up getting a knockout. And I think Sylvia had maybe a broken arm from Frank Mir and wanted to continue in that fight. Can you recall a time, I guess, where you've had an injury like that, where the fighter wanted to keep going and you had to stop those?
Absolutely. It happens all the time. Like I said, a fighter has a mindset, break my arm, I got one good one. Like, that's their mentality. I've had shoulders get popped out and they absolutely cannot continue, and they still want to continue, and they argue with you. Now, the thing about it is the fans don't know what's going on. Like, they don't know, like in Sylvia's situation, Herb Dean made a fantastic call on that one. His arm broke because of the cup. And when he obviously was in the arm bar, but it was the cup that broke the arm. Nobody knew that. Sylvia, when he got up, you couldn't tell his arm was broke, but Herb seen it pop. Like, he could have let it continue because nobody knew, but he did the right thing. And so there's a lot of times the fans don't know why you stopped it. what you seen something pop, or I've had knees hyperextend and go backwards, and you stop it, and the guys kind of protest, and then the crowd's booing you, and then when they realize he can't walk, he falls down, so as he tries to take a step on it, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, I got it. So yeah, it happens more frequently than you would think.
To actually to follow up on one of the questions you had said before, like with the shoulder popping out, TJ Dillashaw, his last fight, he'd known that he'd had shoulder issues, and from my understanding, he had told the ref it'll probably pop out, but if it does, don't stop the fight. What would you do in that kind of situation?
Stop the fight.
I mean, would you even let him go get in the cage if he told you that before fight?
You got to understand, until the cage door shuts, I have no jurisdiction.
Oh, okay.
That's up to the medical doctors, the commissions. Once a cage door shuts, and I say, let's get after it, then it's my cage. And, his arm comes out, I'm stopping the fight. Now, his shoulder could come out. If it pops right back in, then we're good to go. But it didn't, and it should have been stopped, and I would have stopped it as well.
Good deal. Yeah, I was kind of curious about that because from my understanding, like he had told the rep before the fight even started, like he had had issues with it popping out during camp. And but he told the ref, he's like, if it happens, just let me pop it back in. Don't stop the fight. But yeah, it ended up causing quite a bit of damage and cost him the fight. So
and kind of cost him his career because he retired from it. So
yeah, very true. So now I got kind of a question about some rules. How do you feel about the 12-6 elbows?
It's ridiculous.
I was going to say, is that something you agree with? Because my understanding is they made that rule from watching like old karate videos of like the people breaking the boards and the bricks and stuff.
Breaking ice.
And they said, well, if they can do that, and I was like, yeah, but your elbow's like but it's okay to take a shin to the face, or your elbow's like a bat, when someone's holding them down. And
well, the thing with the elbow, the 12-6 elbow, is that is no more dangerous than me standing over you and slicing you with my elbow. The only motion you cannot do with your elbow is 12-6. But from your back, you can do 12-6 because it's not 12-6 anymore.
Right. Yeah. It's 6-12. So
right. So the 12-6 elbow is ridiculous. Like it generates no more power than any other elbow. It's just the optics when the rules were implemented or devised. So yeah, I don't agree with it. I wish they would get rid of it.
Yeah. Okay. That's how I felt about it. I think Joe Rogan and a couple other people feel the same way, but there's some that firmly believe it needs to stay in place.
Look, I don't know any one fighter or any one coach or any one referee actually that would tell you that it should stay. There may be some commissions that regulators that aren't into the sport and just have their mindset of it. But there isn't a fighter, a coach, or an official that would say, yeah, I think they should be banned, because it's no worse than any other elbow that can be thrown.
Yeah, that's my thoughts on it. All right, that was actually just the one real question I have. The next question I have is, you've been in so many cages with fights and whatnot. Have you ever been in one where you thought, like MMA judging, let's just say that, have you ever felt like a fighter's been robbed that you've refed?
Absolutely. Now, I will tell you that my perception of the fight and who won and who lost is a little bit skewed when I'm in there, because I'm not judging it. I'm watching for fouls. I'm watching their eyes. So I'm not getting to pay attention to all the damage and strikes and stuff. But there are times that I'm in there and I know one guy got his ass whooped because I could see and feel and hear those punches. And I knew that the harder strikes were landed. It may have been close in output, but the amount of damage and the effectiveness of the strikes, you knew that, oh yeah, you should get it. And then they read the other person's name and you're like, okay. And that's the thing, is you got three judges that are sitting across the, in different spots of the cage, or they should be. And the reason being is because the fight can take place at anywhere, at any perspective of those judges. So if I'm sitting on this side of the cage and you're on that side of the cage, and the fighters are down on the ground and their heads are towards me, you can't tell from where you're at, if there's no monitors, whether the strikes are landing or not. You just are going off of the motion. So the guy may throw 40 punches and not one of them land, so you give it to that guy, but the other judge who's looking there knows that they didn't land and he gave it to the other guy. So a lot of people contest, that the judging is, terrible, and I agree. There's been some awful decisions, regardless of where the fight took place, shouldn't have happened. But I think that they need to, even the small shows should have monitor screens for each judge to be able to see the action. So when it's across the cage or behind a post where they can't get a good visual of it, they can still get a good, viewing of it on the monitor, so that the right fighter wins. Because look, fighters, especially when you get to the upper leagues of it, they spend a lot of time and energy and money preparing away from their family. They make sacrifices that the normal person has no idea what that they make. And to get in there and get robbed, it's not always about a money thing at that moment. I mean, it's the preparation, everything that went into it. The money, you lose a little bit of it that night, maybe half of it, depending upon what promotion you're at. But it's the long-term money that's affected. Because if you lose tonight, your pay next fight isn't as good as it should have been if you had won. You can't ask for more money coming off a loss or something like that. So there's a lot of ramifications for bad decisions.
Yeah, and not to mention, if that was a title eliminator fight, you lose, you may be right back to the back of the line.
Absolutely.
Somebody said, I don't remember who it was, I'm thinking it was probably on Joe Rogan, that they should put the judges in a room somewhere with monitors and like headphones on or something, because they also can be influenced by the crowd.
And here's what I say to that. That person has no idea what's going on in the sport.
Gotcha.
Because the judges should be competent as well. They can use earplugs if they want. But the big thing that the judge needs to be able to feel is the impact of the shots. On TV and on the camera, the fans don't get it. They don't get that feeling because obviously it's a TV. But when you're there live and you can hear the thud or the impact, shit, that was a clean shot. Whereas on TV, it may have been blocked. You don't know because you can't hear the difference. So a judge needs to be able to hear what's going on as far as the impact goes, to know, whether it was a clean shot or whether it was deflected or anything like that. So I don't think they should be in a separate room with headphones or anything. I think they should be out there. I think you have a competency issue, with training and stuff like that you can do. But I think they need to be out there and feel the energy and feel the part of it. Listen, if that judge gets swayed by a corner person or a fan, they shouldn't be doing the job.
I agree. Yeah. 100%. Yeah, it's weird to me sometimes how judges, you'll see like 49, 48 for one person, 49, 48, and then someone will be like 49, 46 or whatever. And you're like, how is it so different?
Yeah, so the biggest reason is from where they're sitting, what they can see and what they can't see. That has a huge impact on it. The other thing is, and it shouldn't be this way, but it is, if one judge has a strong background in wrestling and one judge has a strong background in Taekwondo, they're going to score the same fight differently. Like the guy who's a wrestler is going to give him more points for the wrestling. The guy with the Taekwondo, the guy gets taken down, takes a couple shots, but gets held for a minute, then gets back up. It's like, oh, no big deal. We're good. Here we go. So the background has something to do with it. But I will tell you, as we evolve and the sport evolves and the training evolves, a lot of that's going to go away because the judges are going to be, train the same way. They're never going to view it the same way because they're humans. But that's how you get the different scores. I don't agree with them, but
Well, and that's why we're having you here, Bobby, because you're there, you've been in it, you've lived it. I've never even been to a live MMA. Well, I take that back. A small promotion, one where there's 50 people. I've never been to like a Bellator or UFC. I will say when COVID was happening and they were doing the fights at that whatever it was there in Vegas that they built.
Apex.
Yeah, when they were having fights and there was nobody in there, it was just two fighters. When you would hear those punches, it was such a difference. I mean, it sounded like bombs going off.
What I relate it to for the normal person who maybe like yourself hasn't been to one is hockey. You can't get a true appreciation for hockey unless you go live, because when you're watching it on TV, you don't get the sound of the puck hitting the wall or the crossbar. You don't get the sound of when the guy gets checked into the boards. You have no concept of the speed that those guys are skating unless you're there live. I love hockey. I don't care to watch it on TV. I will, like the playoffs and things like that. But I'll go to any minor league hockey, professional hockey. Like when you're there live, it is a different experience. And it's the same way with a fight. When you can hear it and you're there, when you hear it, you feel it. And you can feel someone getting more in danger, and you can feel the energy picking up, and it's just a different experience. You said you're in just outside of Evansville. How far are you from Owensboro, Kentucky?
About an hour, maybe hour and a half, give or take.
I have a fight coming up there on June 16th.
All right. That's about a month before my birthday. I might try to make that.
Yeah, it'll be for LFA. So a little bit bigger of a promotion coming as well. So mark it down and make sure you're there.
All right, man. Sounds good. One last actual MMA question. What is the probably coolest or best place that you've refed? Whether it's the people, the food, the atmosphere. What would you say is your favorite, I guess, if you can name one?
Favorite place or favorite venue?
Either.
Okay. My favorite place was Dubai. The people there were fantastic. The food was good, but it was amazing. It was an amazing experience. One of my favorite venues is in South Dakota. It's in Sioux Falls. It's called the Pentagon. LFA does most of their shows there. Bellator, when they go to South Dakota, that's where they put them on. But it's a minor league basketball arena. So it's set up kind of like a basketball arena is.
Right. Yeah.
And the crowd energy when it's packed and something's exciting is happening, like you can feel it. It's awesome. Awesome.
That's good. All right. No more MMA questions, but Bobby, you always put inspiring stuff on Facebook, even when I'm having bad days. If I see your posts, I'm like, I always can, count on you to put something positive out there. So what's something that you would tell by the way, congratulations, 50,000 fans on Facebook, or just your normal Joe if they're going through something? What would you tell them?
You always got to look at the glass as if it's half full. Everybody goes through trying times. We all do. Whether it's minor, major, whatever it is, and something minor to you may be major to me and vice versa. So I try to break it down and put it in general terms for people that, I don't know what anybody's going through. There's 52,000 and some followers now. I don't know the exact number, but all of them are facing different things every morning when they wake up. Some of them are small, some of them are big. So I try to always keep it positive and keep something that someone can read, and regardless of what they're going through, can think, I can relate to that. I've been there, or I'm there. Let's go. And that's what it's about for me, is just making sure everybody sees the positive. Not every day is positive. That's just life.
Yeah.
But you make the most of it, and you can spin anything into a positive if you have that mindset.
Great. Well, Bobby, thank you so much for doing this, man. Like I said, you got 50,000 fans, and you answered us and said you'd come on, and I'm very grateful. And if you ever want to come back, please let me know. Feel free. We'd love to have you again. I could talk fighting and just stuff in general with you for hours, but as I promised you, I wouldn't keep you very long. So
Well,
hopefully this hasn't been too bad.
I'll come on anytime you guys want. I'm always up for talking fighting, anything, life, whatever it is. I love talking it, and I love spreading the message, and I love to get new people to tune in, come to an arena when they weren't expecting to, and meet me, and kind of change their outlook on it. So yeah, I look forward to seeing you in Owensboro. You better be there.
All right, man. I'll try to make plans to. I got horrible social anxiety. I won't lie to you. So it's one of those things I'll have to prep myself to do, but I promise you I'll make every effort to go.
Sounds good, brother. Thanks
All
a
right,
lot,
man.
guys.
Thank you. Take
Have a
care.
good evening.
You
Bye-bye.
too. Bye. All right. Well, that was a great interview, man. Bobby, he's so intelligent, and he knows the game inside and out.
Oh, absolutely. And obviously, with his kind of the first fights and stuff that he talked about influencing him, I mean, clearly he's been watching a long time, since basically the start of the UFC.
Yeah, I mean that was such a great conversation. I mean, we went in and there was only a few things I wanted to ask him, but the more he talked about it, the more it just kind of like I could talk to him. Like I told him, I could talk to him for hours about fighting, about life. He seems like a good guy. Hopefully we'll have him back on in the future. With that said, I think we're going to go ahead and get into the movie section of the podcast. And I didn't have a movie line for you last week, but I got one for you this week. But this one is a softball, and if you don't get it, I don't know what to tell you. And the line is, first rule about Fight Club is we don't talk about Fight Club.
Well, it's really tough.
Yeah, I mean, come on, man.
Put some thought into it, but I'm going to guess that was probably Fight Club.
It's pretty good, man. I mean, it only had the name in it twice.
Right.
So I don't know how you got that one. So, but yeah, Fight Club, great movie. But now, do you have a movie review for us this week?
Yeah, absolutely. So movie review for this week is going to be Big George Foreman. So a couple things. This one, I'll run through kind of the other ratings. So Rotten Tomatoes, they got it at 44%. IMDb 6.7. Common Sense 3 out of 5, and then 94% of users like this movie. So I guess I knew a little bit about George Foreman's background and kind of what I thought was going to happen, just from kind of previous knowledge. So I had a little bit of knowledge coming in, so there weren't going to be any big surprises. But I thought the movie was pretty solid. So again, runtime was 2 hours and 13 minutes on this one. I think it does a pretty good job of kind of going through Foreman's career, which is pretty impressive, and I think it was well done in the movie for sure. So as far as my review, I mean, I would rate it with the typical feel-good sports movies, and there's been so many through the years, but I would say pretty average overall, but wasn't a bad movie. I would say probably maybe 60 out of $1 on this one. So again, pretty entertaining, just nothing outstanding, but at the same time, I mean, worth watching for sure.
Yeah, I think you said last week anything above 50's worth a watch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I think you gave 60 out of 100 last week too. So
I think I did. I think with the Pope's Exorcist review. But yeah, I would put them. Enjoyment, I would say, is pretty similar to these two movies. Obviously, two different movies, but
right. Well, they can't all be home runs, and they're all going to be stinkers. You got to have those mid cards, or that's just how it is, unfortunately. So, all right. Well, I don't think I have anything else to add. This podcast was, or this episode, I'm sorry, was mainly about the interview with Bobby, and I think it turned out great. And so, unless you have something else to add, we're signing off.
Nothing here.
All right, guys. Well, until next time, we are cashing out. See ya.